What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the NerdGen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Marvel Roundup. We got a lot to talk about today. Avengers Doomsday teaser description leak. There's also a reported early plot point of Kang Dynasty. Trammell Tillman and Damson Idris talk some Marvel rumors. And apparently Spidey 4 will have no IMAX screens because of the Odyssey, because that looks to be taking over all IMAX screens when it does come out. But before we get into that, we want to sort of talk about quickly about something that we sort of didn't mention in our DC roundup, and that is the potential for, I don't even want to say it, but Snyderverse stuff coming back. And listen, if I'm in the room, because I'm pretty sure Zach knows how to pitch an idea. Why? Because Rebel Moon was done. And that is an atrocity. So if you want to listen to Zach's pitch, go right ahead. I would probably listen to it just to see how good it is. But then I would look at Rebel Moon and be like, no thanks. Although he certainly, his wish list, his bucket list, Brian, is The Dark Knight. That's what he wants to do. I probably, being in the room, would say, no, thank you. In a nice way, though. But no, thank you. Your thoughts, Brian, before we move on to something more important?
They're obviously drawing the connection because Zach works at Netflix now. And if Netflix was to succeed in acquiring the streamer and studio of WB, people are connecting the dots and saying that would allow them to restore the Snyderverse. Well, technically that's true. They would have the authority to do that. But as you said...
But the authority. Go ahead.
They have... But as you said, they have the firsthand knowledge of both the pros and the cons of the Zack Snyder experience. You know, they did Army of the Dead sequel that was pretty successful, well received. They did a limited theatrical run with that. That was also pretty decent. So that's the high point of Zach. And then they gave him complete control over Rebel Moon, and that was a disaster. Critically a disaster. Commercially came and went. So I think Netflix has firsthand knowledge of what it's like when you hand Zack Snyder complete control over a project. Rebel Moon kind of came and went. Critics certainly did not like it.
It's an atrocity.
Fans were mixed. But here's the thing from Netflix's perspective, right, that they need to look at. I don't think they got the viewership out of it they thought. The first part of the non-director's cut opened at number 1. The others did not. They spent an enormous amount of money because they gave him control for 2 parts plus 2 director's cuts. So, I mean, they spent $300 million they spent big budget blockbuster money to get very limited return. I think that would be the biggest strike against him getting a shot to do anything DC again. Even a one-off Dark Knight Returns. I think Netflix would be like, you have not been hitting home runs for us.
You blew it! You blew it.
So I don't think it's happening. Even if Netflix pulled this off, which I think they're still an underdog in the race, I do not think that this will happen.
But I would say this. Again, if they were looking, I mean, they're not looking to specifically buy DC, correct? They're looking to buy the streaming platforms, the streaming operations and stuff. But as I mentioned before in our DC roundup, having that DC IP and it being the only place that you can get it is an incentive for those fans who are fans of the DC universe for them to sign up. And I think that is the play here. So we shall see how that turns out. But for Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse to continue is not even really a topic that I would waste my time in trying to see if that could be revived. It's over. Get it through your heads. It is over. I know you want it to happen, but it's
I always
over.
look at that, though, and I'm like, you guys had your chance to ensure this would continue.
You blew it.
I get it. It's online people, that sort of stuff. But it's like, if there were that many people, why didn't you show up? Why didn't you go see BVS 7 times? Why didn't you make that $1.2 billion, $1.3 billion? Had you done that, then the universe would have continued. So the circle of people who really, really, truly, truly want this clearly wasn't big enough to sustain things.
And that's business.
Exactly. How could you blame any ownership looking at that and being like, I put Batman and Superman on screen at the same time at a time when superhero IP was ascendant. I opened with $166 million US, and I couldn't get to $1 billion with those characters and Wonder Woman thrown in? That's a failure. Commercially.
Failure is not even the word, yo. Justice League made what? 600, 700? We can't talk after that. We cannot talk after that.
Justice League made about the same or less globally than 3 of the 4 Avengers movies made in the US alone.
That's the conversation, Brian. Explain that to me. Why do you think that is? Not you. This is a rhetorical question. Why do you think that is? If you're going to tell me, well, we got a lot I don't care how many fans you got. Your fans didn't equate to $1 billion for the Justice League, nor did it equate for BVS, which is a dumbass title. I'm tired of the versus stuff. Give me World's Finest. Give me the titles that we need to see on screen. You haven't done that. You gave it to somebody that pitched you a hell of an idea at a time that you were desperate to compete and to get some of those dollars.
And you pushed him. And you pushed him. Maybe who knows where the line is between his idea and what you pushed him to do. But in any case, the outcome was a failure.
You blew it.
Yes, that part of it doesn't really. I don't give Zach too much grief over BVS and Justice League, because certainly there were other forces involved. But the fact that you want to revive something that didn't work in the hopes, just because you want to see it, is not enough to me to go in business with you. It's not enough. It, like you said, it failed and miserably. I'm sorry. Batman, Superman on the same screen, not even, and then you get Justice League, not even close.
Yeah.
Conversation is over. Your ideas didn't work.
Yeah, change.
Now it's time to move on.
Yeah, all right, let's do
Marvel.
it. Yeah.
Avengers Doomsday teaser description has leaked somewhat. You had talked about it in what we thought Doomsday teaser would look like.
Different versions. Yeah, we were speculating what would be an effective marketing approach to this.
But the common denominator was
Downey. We kind of said, like, it's probably going to be about Downey because this whole thing has been about Downey. New mask, same task, the chairs, everything has been, he is the sun to this solar system.
We'll also talk about some an early plot point of Kang Dynasty, Trammell Tillman and Damson Idris on Marvel Rumors, and Spidey 4, no IMAX screens because of Odyssey. So what's going on with Avengers Doomsday teaser description leak, Brian?
Well, 2 main points. Number 1 is, sounds a lot less like a teaser and more like a full-on trailer. That's number 1. What's your thought about, before we even get into the specifics, what's your thought about that approach? That, hey, we're not coming with 90 seconds of quick cuts, and we're coming with probably 2.5 minutes of like footage to try to grab you.
I think there it is. We're trying to grab you. And I don't think they have, or I don't think they think they have the ability to grab you with just 90 seconds because they don't even know what they got, I think. They don't even know what they got. And to put together something that may not result in what the movie perhaps may be, and just to give you something, to me tells me that they're not confident in having the ability to grab you in 90 seconds. And they need to Aquaman the whole thing. So
I agree
That's what I
1,000%.
think
That
is
was
happening
when I
here.
saw this, my first thought was, wow, they really are not sure how things have changed. Because you know why I think about that? Because remember, we talk about credit scenes and cut scenes, right? Remember we got to the end of First Avenger and the table had been set, and that wasn't a credit scene at the end of that movie. What was it? It was a teaser for Avengers. It was a quick cut. It was like 60 seconds of Cap punching the bag, little shots. You don't really see, they don't give away anything. They just show you these little things and they're like, the Avengers are coming. Enough said. We're a long way from that. And you even think about like how they brought in, the promotional material for Endgame. In the original teaser and trailer for that, they show nothing. I believe the furthest shot in the movie you get in the first teaser is before Thor cuts off Thanos' head. Because you see them flying through space, you see Tony Stark marooned in space, you see Brie Larson. All of that stuff is in the first 20 minutes of the film. They don't show you the last 2 hours because they don't need to. This is the opposite of that. This feels like the final trailer of Green Lantern or X-Men Origins Wolverine, right? And I say that because those are bad movies where the studio was panicking, and so they put all the best shots in the trailer so you could see them. I'm not saying they went this far in this case, but if it is a full-on like, hey, we're really going to just throw the movie at you or a part of the movie at you, then yeah, I think it does speak to we don't feel like our place in the box office picture for next year is secure, and we need to grab the hype meter back. So I'm a little disappointed, I got to be honest, to read this type of approach.
Yeah.
That it is all about Downey and Doom. So this was, remember we talked about the two tacks. Do you make him like the shark in Jaws and sort of this like hidden presence? Or do you just say this movie is an ensemble picture, but it's really about one man and one man's ability to lift the entire universe again? And it seems like they're going with the latter. So what's been described from the insider who apparently has seen it, Film Threats Chris Gore, quote, you're going to get not just a glimpse of Doom, you're going to see Doom. The way the character was described in terms of Downey's interpretation is as a classic universal monster like Phantom of the Opera. It's a tragic figure, a broken figure, and part of it is his armor, Doom's armor. Remember, Iron Man had the armor and that was his superpower. Doom must have the armor because his body is broken and scarred. Not my words, someone else's words, but full universal monster with the interpretation. He needs the suit to actually function. And then, of course, add the element that Doom has not just his technical and skill with science, but also has combined it with magic, end quote.
Listening to that reminds me of, the classic villains that we've had over the
That's who I thought
years,
of.
Darth
like
Vader.
that the entire time he was describing it, it's like, isn't he
Yeah,
describing
yeah.
Darth Vader and the use of the suit being essential to his life?
Yeah. Was it, which came first, Doom or
Doom,
Darth
right? In the
Vader?
comics?
I
In the
think
comic?
Darth-
Yes, I think
I think
Doom. Yeah, I'll
Doom.
double check
Yeah.
that, but I'm almost
Yeah.
positive it's Doom.
Again, I'm going to have my theory that we perhaps still at the end of this don't know who Doom is, and that when he was visiting Franklin, he was having Franklin change him to look like Robert Downey Jr. That I'm still sticking with that. But yeah, we're going to continue on the same path of making it about him. And if it is an epic failure, Brian, it'll be because of him.
So just to confirm, Dr. Doom was introduced in 1962. Obviously, George Lucas would have conceived and written of Darth Vader in the early to mid 1970s. That's when he said he started writing Star Wars, was the early 1970s. So yes, Doom comes first. I need to go back to this point though, because I feel like this description, if it proves accurate, there's positives and negatives that I see in this. But I wanted to focus on one thing first and foremost and get your reaction. I have suspected that a lot of the reason we know the main reason they wanted Downey to do this, right? And it's commercial. So let's put that to the side. I have speculated that a lot of the creative reason why they find appeal in having Downey be Doom is because they are speaking directly to the audience and the audience's history with Downey as Stark. And they want to have the audience have some kind of emotional reaction to seeing Downey as a different character. And when I read this about sort of Stark uses the armor for one purpose and Doom uses the armor for another purpose, to me, that is not an in-screen drama that you're creating. That's an for the audience drama you're creating. It's us who has the association of Robert Downey Jr. as Stark in armor, and you are asking us to be jarred by now seeing a scarred Robert Downey Jr. having to use armor as the villain. What do you think of this seemingly ongoing, and it seems like they are going to do it, this to play to the audience that this matters and will have weight, not for the characters, but for us as moviegoers seeing the actor doing the two sides of this coin?
I've said previously that the curiosity of what this will be is high. And it remains so. To see Robert Downey Jr. and to see the differences, to see how he plays it, and also to see the reactions of his former team, friends. But obviously this is not him, this is someone else, but to see the reactions of those other characters reacting to Doom and perhaps the revelation of who he is. Because it's Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom, I think, first of all, if I would have been in the room and they asked me, Robert Downey, I would be like, no. Because this is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Is to get a reaction. That's it. Yes, we have plot devices that have been put in there to sort of make the story make sense. You have the tools in the Russo brothers having knowledge or prior knowledge of what they've done to construct a story that makes sense. So far, what we've heard seems interesting, but we don't obviously have the full details. We have details of perhaps why Doom is coming after some of these individuals, more specifically Cap, and him being the guy that they point to as the reason why this is all happening because of what he did in Endgame and started off this
The incursion.
I mean, I would like to see that play out. I'm interested in seeing how this all plays out. Will it be successful? Will people buy into this, Brian? I don't know. That's how I see this playing out. Will it translate into a good movie? Will it translate into drama and suspense that this sort of scenario could present itself? That is the question that I'm sort of fighting with in the sense that I don't know if they can put off this miracle of it reaching the heights of what they previously have done. Because it's a miracle if it does. If they're able to pull it off.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It is that level, yes, of feat.
But right now, we're into this movie not for excitement, but for curiosity. From my perspective.
And that theme of this movie having those meta qualities and really relying on audience history, obviously there's a lot of that, right? The nostalgia of all these cameos, the 20th Century Fox X-Men, presumably this is going to be a little bit like the beginning of Transformers the movie, right? The first 20 minutes where you see all these G1 characters that you've loved for these seasons and episodes get dispatched, right? Culminating in spoiler alert, Optimus Prime being taken out by Megatron. But you're relying on the vibes of like, oh, I'm seeing that actor again back in this suit. I'm seeing that character again. And then also I think there'll be I'm seeing maybe a variant of a few of these actors playing, different versions of themselves. So all of that stuff exists kind of outside the screen. This is my point. It's really counting on your own history with these characters and sort of your own feelings in revisiting them or seeing them manipulated into a different version of themselves. What I'm curious about, and what I think unfortunately seems inevitable, is I think for the Downey one in particular, this idea of this is the dark side of the suit, right? The two-face of it all, right? Half of it is the light side, that's Stark and his use of the tech and the suit, and the dark side is going to be Doom and his use of the tech and the suit. We as an audience do not need to see his face to make that connection, because we know it's Robert Downey Jr. who's voicing it inside the suit. The people in the movie have to see his face for that to have any impact, because they only know Tony Stark's face. So they cannot make that emotional connection the way we can unless he unmasks and they see a face that is identical to Tony Stark. So I think this is a bad sign in terms of, if they want this really to be a heartbeat of the film, I think it's going to necessitate, as we saw in the cutscene of Fantastic Four, him having the mask off at key points, and having Steve and having Thor and having key characters see the face that they know and love and remember as Tony Stark, and have it be the person that they're facing with the world and the universe on the line. I know how you feel about that, but I don't see a way around it if this is the thrust of the character.
And if we go on with the story that in some ways Doom's character is supposed to trick those individuals into believing that he's Tony Stark, and then at the end turns on him for whatever reason. I mean, I think the moment I see his face, Brian, I'm going to be like, and if it's early, Brian?
If you sit in the middle, you're going to disrupt a lot of people's experience if you get up. All of that being described, and the idea that this is going to be a full trailer, do you want to see that approach in the trailer already? Like, would you have preferred to simply not know at all and go into the theater fresh and then just experience whatever it is Downey had come up with, versus it seems like they're going to want you to know the tack that he's taken with this character long before you sit down to watch it?
I think if they can prove with this trailer that we're getting something special in his portrayal of Doom, if they can, I don't know how, but if they can get people excited, sure, there are people excited, but again, people excited doesn't necessarily translate into dollars, right? I think they have to, because I was thinking about this as you were talking, like, yo, the majority of people for the MCU that weren't fans, that became fans during that era, a lot of them have dropped off. Perhaps they're not, they're just totally out, and though may see it once. But to get to the numbers that they got, Brian, obviously we have to have multiple viewings and other portions, I guess, of the world to buy in to this, to see it. I don't know if we're there. I don't know if showing Robert Downey Jr. will get us there. I don't know if it will convert the curious to to excitement.
I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine would say there's probably enough interest there, right? I mean, that's a $1.3 billion rated R project that kind of shares some DNA with what this project is trying to do in terms of nostalgia and callbacks and so forth. And I think the odds are still that this will be technically successful, even if it's not creatively and commercially successful to the level of, Endgame and Infinity War. But I think it's interesting because I don't know how many people would view this movie as an entry point. What younger audience is really going to view this as the movie that begins their MCU fandom? That doesn't seem to be what this movie is at all. And that's what I mean by the X-Men and honestly Brand New Day are much more to me, if you are younger and just coming to the genre, you would be much more likely to gravitate toward those projects, I feel like, than this one, which is clearly more aimed at people like you and me, who are old enough to remember the inception of the MCU, because we're the people for whom everything we just described about Robert Downey matters. If you're 13 years old, you might not have even seen Iron Man 1. Like so to you, like that doesn't have any weight at all. You know, this idea of like Downey as these two different characters, good and bad, like that doesn't mean anything to you. So I'm pretty interested to see how this works. And I would point out in their defense, the Ledger Joker is a good example of where a performance is so good, you can not hide it and it still is otherworldly, right? Like from the standpoint of the teaser, you hear Ledger's voice and you're like, that's Heath Ledger? And then you see the first trailer and you're like, that's Heath Ledger? And the fact that they showed you some of those classic lines in the trailer did not detract from when you showed up on screen and this guy was just out of this world. So it can work where like they literally use more footage of Doom, if it is that good, to actually get people hyped. It can work. It's not impossible. But I think you're right from the outset. They're not completely convicted that they've got your money. So it seems like they're going to overshare a little bit to try to make sure they get it.
They probably somebody in the room said, "Look what Aquaman did. We showed Aquaman the suit in the first trailer, and they made $1 billion."
I would say do not quote me a number or a thing that worked from anywhere between 2017 and 2019. That's pets.com valuation time. Like you do not look at those years as representative of anything. Talk to me about what worked. If you want to talk about history, talk to me about what worked in 2004, 2005, 2008. That's where we can talk. It's when we were remaking the genre and taking it from Batman and Robin days through Blade, through X-Men, through Batman Begins to Iron Man 1. That's what we're trying to do here. Don't talk to me about peak superhero genre stuff and what worked then, because that's not working now.
Yeah.
You want to segue to one of the prior iteration plot points of this movie? Because I feel like this to the point of there's been a lot of change. Last we heard, they were changing out the writers again, right? The last report was the Deadpool writers were coming in to like rewrite whatever, was it McFeely? Marcus? I always forget which one is on this movie. So it sounds like the story is still in flux, which, you know, you can say even with Downey's portrayal, we're still getting things changed. But it came out from, I believe it was Michael Waldron actually, who was on the original iteration of this, along with Jeff Loveness, who of course wrote Quantumania, among other things. They had talked about in the Kang Dynasty iteration of this movie, one of the scenes they were most excited to pitch and have be in the movie. And I just want to give you this quote because sometimes I feel like we talk about change and reshoots and chaos as being bad things. And then every once in a while you read some stuff where you're like, well, this is why sometimes change is necessary. So he said, quote, Jeff Loveness and I spent an afternoon pitching on the Young Avengers, defeating a version of Kang and being so stoked about it, only to discover that this particular Kang carried a little card that said, be patient with him because it was his first day as a Kang. And then the Young Avengers were so bummed. I think he was going to be Lizard Kang from the end of Kang Dynasty. I don't know. Anyway, we had a lot of fun, end quote. Let me tell you something. If that had gone up on screen,
as soon as you say Young Avengers, boy, I saw the guy running
that's
downstairs.
A waste of time in a movie. What he just described is not a scene that, to my mind, would have added anything to any version of this film.
Look, man, I'm over this shit. I'm over it.
No.
Like a 5-minute set piece of the Young Avengers defeating a rookie Kang and then finding out, haha, I got you, it was a rookie Kang. What emotional weight does that have on anybody?
Is there anything about their affiliation to comics and their affinity for it? And these are just people just, I like this character. Let's create something out of thin air.
No, what this is this ongoing thing of which I do lay at Kevin Feige's feet, that young audiences demand young characters. That is utter crap. We read you for the younger audiences what they voted for as their top 20 forms of IP. It wasn't laced with kids. It wasn't, right? It's video game IP, a lot of which are adult characters, like creature characters. And then the most popular, the most popular superhero characters are Spider-Man, the Avengers, grown-up characters. But this is Disney and Kevin Feige's obsession to recapture the younger audience we have lost. We must go younger with our casting, which is one of our fears with X-Men, is we keep hearing they want to go younger on X-Men. We want to force young Avengers. But the young audience is telling you that's not necessarily what they want to come out for.
X-Men Evolution should have been
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. It's a great point.
If that was the case. And two things. They were young, and they made Wolverine the main dude. We got to get away from this. We got to get away from this. And there was and shout outs to that commentator about Wolverine. I don't know if you read that.
Oh, the comment saying Marvel doesn't have the luxury of waiting. That one, which is a very fair commercial point to make. And he or she probably right that Marvel will put him in the first iteration. I'm arguing creatively against it for the reasons I have, but he's probably right. Like, Burton's probably right commercially that Marvel, for the same reason they can't afford for this first teaser of Doomsday to be a teaser, probably can't afford the whole Wolverine and the Wings for as long as we would probably say would be the best storytelling path for this.
I still say, if you want to have Wolverine and not save him, have him be similar to how he is in the X-Men. Right
down the cast list. He's one of the team. He's not the main story arc.
And every once in a while, you sprinkle certain things about him that gets us.
Yeah, you give him the Nightcrawler mansion scene. You give him the scene where he gets something where it's like he's still Wolverine. He's still cool as hell and all that.
And then you give us the anthology series. That's it. That's it. You want Wolverine? Here it is.
Yeah.
Centuries of him. That would be dope.
I'll drop one Easter egg here for people to go do. I do not want to talk about this on our show. I just want people to Google this because you mentioned the anthology series Through the Centuries. If people have not heard about the controversy that's surrounding Assassin's Creed right now, just look it up. I say no more because I don't think it's appropriate for us to comment on. But and I mean the game, not the long gestating Netflix series that's coming, but the latest planned iteration of the Assassin's Creed game that was canceled and not happening. Just Google that. That's
Travel Tillman and Damson Idris on Marvel rumors. What's going on there, Brian?
Well, we know that Trammell Tillman is in Spider-Man Brand New Day. There has been a lot of speculation that he is Norman Osborn.
Shout outs to Bo DeMayo. Go ahead.
I know exactly what. Yeah, Pablo doesn't know. If you guys don't know what he just said, Google Bo DeMayo on Marvel villains. That's it. But Trammell Tillman, who of course is known for Severance and had a scene-stealing role in Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, someone asked him about how the villain he plays in Spider-Man differs from his character in Severance, to which he said, "Who says I'm playing a villain? I'm just enjoying my time filming the project." So he just wouldn't take the bait. Someone tried to tilt that one. Wouldn't take the bait. That got people sort of in well, what if he's not a villain? What if it's that face? He probably still is, and he's probably just messing with you. But
he probably still is, and probably not playing it as a villain. He's probably has his good reasons for who he is and why he does what he does. Similar to, I mean, listen, I don't mind the relationship he had with Spider-Man in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It was an interesting.
I think it's actually an interesting flip. The Coleman Domingo portrayal. I think it's one of the most. I think that's a great way of subverting audience expectations. And now we'll see where they take it. But I love the riff on Captain America: Civil War. I love that scene in that show where they replay the scene where it's supposed to be Stark sitting on the couch with Aunt May, and you're over the shoulder of Peter, and you're watching this whole thing beat for beat, and then you realize they zoom out and it's Coleman Domingo's Norman Osborn on the couch, not Tony Stark. I think that's brilliantly done.
This whole Damson Idris thing, I don't know if you saw what I saw. As of late, they had some sort of celebration. I forget what it was, but Idris was walking with Angela Bassett.
Yeah, it's the Time 100 celebration event. So they had like all these projects linking, through his, it was like F1 stuff. There's like a whole bunch of things represented. So that's why Tillman, Idris, Angela Bassett, like a lot of famous people are in the same place at the same time. This is where this is happening.
Do you think this is all to get a sense of the appetite for this being a possibility?
Oh, you mean like they're kind of trial ballooning whether people want this? That could be. I mean, so to give people the background of this, you need a little bit of visual, so you can try to find it. So he was asked, kind of as he's at the event, about rumors about him being the new Black Panther. He was asked if he could say anything or if he could take the role if offered it. And he just starts smiling and laughing. He just kind of like breaks his face. He's just kind of laughing. He's like, no, I don't know anything about it. But then when the interviewer says in the future, can they circle back to the topic? He nods his head. So people are like reading into like, is he messing with us? Is he like actually signaling there's something real there?
I think by now we should know Kevin Feige's MO. It has changed over the years. And again, we've said it on the show, he's gone Hollywood.
Ovation this man gets. What an entrance he makes.
And unfortunately, it didn't work out for Mahershala Ali, but it could work out for Damson Idris.
That's tough.
It is what it is, right? He came to us.
I guarantee that comment was not well received. Like that wasn't full Ed Norton letter to the public, but like, I mean, that was definitely Kevin Feige. Like, I am going to take the wheel of the bus and I'm going to drive this over you.
Damson Idris has been in conversation amongst fans, speculation as to who should take over. Having left off where we left off in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, he has been, I guess, the number one choice for most people.
He also scored a big win this summer because F1 was one of the best received successful movies worldwide of the summer. Now, was it because of his performance? I would say not as much. He was good, but he wasn't, I think it's more F1, the phenomenon, the visuals of and direction of Kosinski. Pitt is a lot of Pitt carrying it. Like, I think Idris is probably like fourth or fifth on the list of reasons why the movie really works. But the reality is he went from being like a noted TV guy in Snowfall, who people were sort of liked, to now he has a blockbuster with his name next to it. So he does have some heat that he didn't have a couple months ago.
It feels like they're setting us up for this possibility. I don't know what it means. I'm more concerned, Brian, after the reset, after Secret Wars. What happens there? I mean, we could possibly get a Black Widow type situation where they release a film before this happened, right? But if it isn't, my hope is that this is the Black Panther going forward. But again, we don't know the details of what this reset looks like.
Given the history of this particular franchise, doesn't Coogler get the final say on this at this point? I mean, he kind of has had the final say on most matters Black Panther up to now, and he certainly has the success and the notoriety to wield that influence uniquely at Marvel. So do we think this is Kevin Feige has to sign off on this? Or is this ultimately, like, if Ryan Coogler wants Damson Idris, it's going to be Damson Idris? Yeah. I still think Miles Caton is. I still think that's the guy that Coogler would pick if it was just hit totally his. I'm still waiting to see if there's any smoke around that. But I just, after the turn in Sinners and the age at which I think if it's the son would seem most appropriate, Caton at age 21 versus I think Idris is around 30, 31. He looks young, in fairness, but like I still think that's like a sleeper possibility in this. But Idris is hot. I agree. I agree. He's hot. There's no question.
I still like Abu Bakar Salim.
For the look, yeah, that's a name people won't know, but if you just Google it, you'll see it. It's a look. Yeah.
Let's see what happens with Damson Idris if he possibly becomes the next Black Panther, and whether or not this was sort of a test to feel the temperature on that possibility. Because
I do agree with the thing of like I don't think it's signed yet.
That's what it looks like.
I think talks are happening, but I don't think anyone has signed to play the part yet.
Yeah. And who knows if Damson's Idris is like, all right, let's do this to see how I feel about people's response about this. Because if you listen to, I call him Jaw, Jeremy Allen White, if you listen to his conversation, he's speaking for all actors, I think. So, and actors talk to each other. And I think the temperature, I think for actors, they're sort of, especially for someone like Damson Idris, who has a long career ahead of him, he wants to make the right decision. And if they really want him, they'll have to sort of work with him instead of him say like, you're going to be this and, you know, like him having no say because he thinks Marvel is it. I think, again, what Jeremy Allen White said represents a lot of actors and actors who are looking to possibly or being approached to be in the MCU are going to take a careful approach. Because like, if you really want me, then we got to work together in terms of whether this is a right fit for me. And if y'all getting your stuff together, because you guys aren't the jam anymore.
Yeah, I mean, go back to our piece that we recapped from, it was Variety or Hollywood Reporter, talking about sort of the state of IP, right? And we talked about how Marvel was kind of down arrow, and even in the quotes in there from like the agents and the producers in Hollywood was sort of like, there's an element of risk now with this IP that there wasn't, 10 years ago. We're definitely back more toward if you go back and watch old interviews of Chris Evans when he talks about agonizing whether to take the part. And one of the biggest hangups that he talks about at the time is not so much being Steve Rogers, it's the 6-picture contract and locking yourself in to this character and having the studio have control to option you into these other projects that he's like, and also he wasn't getting paid a lot, to be honest. If you go back, he's paid him pennies for what he delivered. I think there's a lot of that now too, where they're like, okay, I want the big bag up front, and Disney's trying to cut budgets, so they're probably not offering that. What Disney wants to offer is like, hey, we want you to agree to these multi-picture deals. And now I think some of what Jeremy Allen White is not saying, but really saying is like, I don't want to lock myself in when there's this element of risk where like these things might bomb and might not go anywhere, and I might not get the doors open for me that I thought, but now I'm actually still hostage to the MCU whenever they want me to show up on screen. Like, it is a different conversation and a different tension. And we don't know Damson Idris personally, what his camp is saying. We don't know if they think this is a good path for him right now, because doors are definitely open for him post F1. And you see, guys like Chalamet have been really resistant, right? They would be welcomed into the universe in any capacity, given the star power and the youth. And he's kind of been public, at least so far, about saying that's not something he would want to do, even though he's left the door open a little bit. So anyway, just you see, a lot of it just depends on the camp of these people.
Spidey 4. No IMAX screens. Why, Brian? Because Chris Nolan, I was going to say Chris Nolan says so, but because Chris Nolan has top priority. And is Spider-Man 4 going to be releasing around the same time as Odyssey? It seems like that's...
I think it's 2 weeks apart.
Who comes out first?
I believe the Odyssey.
Would you, as an, let's say you're an exec there, do you say, hey, if we want IMAX, we got to switch out dates. We got to come out at a certain time where we're not competing with this, because this movie, like, nobody can look at this situation and say, we're going to put out a big movie and go possibly, even though there's some overlap, head to head with the Odyssey, they're probably going to be in the theaters for 4 or 5 months. Who knows?
And I was correct, by the way. Odyssey is July 17th. Brand New Day is July 31st. So yes, I was correct. 2 weeks.
To say no IMAX, that's... And have they been filming in IMAX, Brian?
So this is the thing. The backstory to this is funny because it just shows you, in some ways, the power of Nolan around Hollywood especially with regard to this technology, which he has been a pioneer in. So the most IMAX films, when they get IMAX, get the theater for a week. You get a week run the IMAX theater, then cycles a new movie in. Nolan's Odyssey has it for at least a month exclusively. At least a month. So he gets mid-July to mid-August. They can only show the Odyssey. And obviously he filmed the entire film in the new IMAX camera that they specifically developed for him with his specifications. That was so known. Spider-Man 4 is not shooting in IMAX at all. So they knew from the get-go they had no shot. By committing to the release date where they wanted this movie, they were like, well, Nolan's getting that. But it is a loss commercially. Like, you charge premium rates for IMAX screens. Like, the fact that you can have those for 4 weeks is a big boost to the Odyssey's box office. And even if Spider-Man Brand New Day was not filmed in IMAX, not being able to show it in any IMAX theater is going to dent their box office potential slightly. Not huge, but slightly. And they didn't even bother with the production cost of shooting in the IMAX camera. So, I mean, this is definitely like I think we're super excited about the project. I still think it can be phenomenally successful. But this definitely shows you like who's top dog when it comes to the premium large format event film. It's Chris Nolan and everyone else when he's got something on the calendar. And I have to admit, I'm a little bummed because Spider-Man is a character that does lend itself to IMAX and the giant screen. And even if they're not shooting it in that format, I wouldn't mind seeing it in that format. So the fact that we can't is a little bit of a loss in my view. I mean, but, it speaks to the Odyssey. We talked about it when they first started it. If you go on your Fandangos, your AMC app or whatever, like scroll down to coming soon. The last movie on that list is the Odyssey because they started pre-selling those tickets a year out. A year out.
The shit's chess, it ain't checkers.
All you can say is, oh well.
I mean, that trailer's coming this month too, supposedly. So that'll be interesting. The full trailer Odyssey, trailer Brand New Day. We just talked about the Doomsday trailer, maybe not teaser. The battle for summer, man. And then, of course, lurking out there is the Masters of the Universe teaser trailer. When do we get that? I mean, this is a massive summer of variety IP that we are supposedly going to be getting finally getting the reveals on some of this stuff in the next 2 months.
I still have my bets on Masters of the Universe doing a lot of interesting things with its teaser, with its at the box office, given how they've sort of introduced the first look at it, because to me that is a tell that they went the length of translating Masters of the Universe in different languages for everyone to see. And given what we've heard from anyone who was there at CinemaCon to witness and describe what they saw has all been positive. I don't know how anyone is not excited for this, especially if anyone is not excited about it. We'll see what the temperature will be when they release the teaser trailer or the trailer, Brian.
I agree. That's why I think it's fascinating. Because to me, like if you like in terms of the hype meter, just the anticipation meter, my personal one for next year, I would have the Odyssey 1, I would have Masters of the Universe 3 or 2. Sorry, I'd have Brand New Day 3, and I have Doomsday 4. If you're just asking me those 4 projects, there's other movies. I get it. I take it to DC stuff, and I'm putting that to the side. Of those 4 movies that we're getting these trailers for, supposedly in December, that's how I would rank it. Let's see if the initial footage, or in the Odyssey's case, the initial online footage, because they never put that teaser from the summer online. Let's see if this initial worldwide available footage changes my rankings and changes your rankings for what you're most hyped about.
So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of our discussion on the MCU roundup. It'll be interesting to see if you have anything to say about our small little rant on Zack Snyder's Snyderverse possibility. And, Doomsday, that trailer is going to be something to behold, to see what, if it converts people from the curious to the excited. That's what I'm looking to see. I definitely think, and I've been thinking about this, we're going to hear I Am Doom. We're definitely going to hear that. I don't know if we hear that in the teaser. Brian, come on. I Am Doom. That's his thing. That's his thing. So I think the concept art and the stuff we've seen about Doom is pretty spot on in terms of the look. We'll see what he sounds like. I'm not interested in hearing Robert Downey Jr.'s voice unless he is going towards, again, this trickery that he's supposed to be pulling off with him being Tony Stark. Obviously, we're going to get not necessarily a remix, but certainly a similarity to his previous outings as Tony Stark. We'll see what all that looks like. Hopefully, perhaps we may not get in the trailer, but in the trailer, most likely we're going to be seeing Doom doing his thing, whatever that is. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing that Doomsday trailer to see what it's about. Obviously, a lot of people are. And could we get away from this? Like, if I was in a meeting in a room and somebody says Young Avengers, I tell them get out. Get out. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about Young Avengers.
And
I'll turn into Jeremy
Disney
Piven
Plus
from
doors down
Entourage.
the hall.
Get the F out of here. Yes. So we'll see what Trammell Tillman is going to be doing in Spidey 4. It'll be interesting, I think, because he's certainly an interesting new face. And his portrayal will certainly be interesting to see what he's actually playing. And Damson Idris, the Idris test for Black Panther. We got a little small glimpse of what that sort of situation may look like. People are talking about it. And it's a bummer to have Spidey 4 not be on IMAX. What can we say? But people are still gonna go check, obviously, Spider-Man 4, A Brand New Day. There's just a whole new thing to look at there. And I think that is very interesting. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Comment in the comment section below. And we'll see you next time on the NerdGen Report.